Rosa Diaz is a character in the American sitcom Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which ran from 2013 to 2021. Nailed it! It is based on the fictional version of the 99th Precinct, based in Brooklyn in the NYPD. Rosa Diaz is one of the detectives in the precinct, and she's in her 30s, and she's played by Stephanie Beatriz, who is of Colombian and Bolivian descent. Hi, I'm Jenni, and in this video I will go through the main aspects of Rosa's plot in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I have divided these main aspects into different categories. Number one is personality and background. Second is work. Third is friendships and family, and love and sexuality. I will then kind of analyze this and see how Rosa has changed throughout the show. I'm not gonna include every single little detail like in my other character study videos, but I'm gonna go through like the main events that happened to Rosa in the series. Also, Rosa is a side character, so while she has meaningful relationships and so on, they aren't explored as much as they would have been if she had been a main character. Also, I have written a script for this video, so I will be looking down at my notes from time to time, even though I can't really see them without my glasses. I want to start with a disclaimer that even though Brooklyn Nine is a fun comedy, it's still cop propaganda. Yes, the crimes that they usually solve in the show are like universally objectively bad, like murder, embezzlement, drug-related major crimes, but it still presents a version of the NYPD that isn't really realistic. The NYPD have repeatedly harassed and targeted Black people and Latin people, queer people, people of color. So while for the majority of the show, the NYPD, the detectives are presented in a positive light, it's not really realistic. I do view Brooklyn Nine-Nine as almost like a parody of cop shows because some of the plot lines are so goofy. And they do discuss the corruption and racism within the NYPD throughout the show. In season 6, the captain of the precinct, Holt, does say that
the 9-9 is at war with the NYPD.
And then especially in season 8, they try to kind of change the NYPD within the system. In 2020, Stephanie Beatriz donated to a bail relief fund and then asked other actors who play cops in shows to donate as well, because police brutality is a real issue, and when they portray cops on TV, they kind of are part of that discussion too, and they should help people as well. So I think this fact is important to keep in mind while watching the show. It represents a version of the NYPD that isn't really representative of what it really is. Alright, let's start with Rosa's personality and background. Rosa Diaz shares very little about herself, especially in the beginning of the show. It's kind of part of her self-presentation, where she keeps her personal life and work life completely separate. But in one episode, she does reveal that when she was younger, she was a very talented ballet dancer, but she was kicked out because she beat up a bunch of ballet dancers. Listen, Rosa is very intense at times, very strong, at times even rude and very violent in her speech. She has no time for dysfunctional technology or for co-workers who, in her view, do not do their job that they should be doing. We see her smash a printer when it doesn't work the way she wants it to. She threatens others with violence. She owns plethora of weapons. There's even a famous quote from her.
What kind of woman doesn't have an axe?
And I get it, being a woman, being Latina, being queer, like you do have this, like she must have this type of self-preservation and like protecting herself by having this demeanor. And I guess because Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a comedy, maybe it wouldn't be completely warranted to call Rosa Diaz like a violent character, because it is not that seriously presented. It's her violence and violent behavior at times is like shown as jokes and comedic moments in the show. And while Rosa never loses her edge during the show, she does become more vulnerable and open and a little bit calmer as the show goes on. And in my opinion, Rosa has never been like full on violent and crass, but it's been more like her putting up a front. But later on she understands that there are ways to protect herself in ways that aren't so violent. Later on in season 6, it's revealed that she went to medical school, business school, she has a pilot's license. Listen, it's a comedy. Like, she better work. Like, if she has achieved all that and is still like in her 30s, slay on, queen. In season 6 episode He Said, She Said, which Stephanie Beatrice directed, Rosa and Amy talk about how they view their feminism in a case of sexual assault. So they have a woman come in because she had been sexually assaulted by her co-worker, and she was given hush money by the company to not go through with the case. Amy encourages Carrie, the name of the woman, to not take the hush money and go through with the case, while Rosa points out that because sexual assault cases are very difficult and she might end up with not winning, that maybe she should have taken that hush money.
Even if she wins, she still loses. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
I've landed on active listening. I will no longer be chiming in.
Yeah, but when one person comes forward, it inspires others to speak up. And that's a hell of a lot better than taking a deal that lets sexual predators walk free.
Dude, obviously, I get that. I'm just saying, remember that there's a very real woman here whose career and life are going to be affected by you pursuing this case.
And they discuss this, and Rosa does say that she is a feminist, and it's a very interesting conversation. And then you have to keep in mind that they are cops, and she also talks about the institutionalized racism within the NYPD in season 8. So she kind of represents these kind of liberal views in the show. I will discuss more about how I would like summarize and describe Rosa after I've finished talking about all of these aspects that are represented of her in the show. But before I move on to the next topic, I would like to say that Rosa contains multitudes. As we learn more about her during the shows, she loves Nancy Meyer's movies, she loves riding motorcycles, she has a puppy that she adopts, she loves animals, she watches Gilmore Girls, she just wants Lorelai to be happy. She read the Babysitter's Club books for Amy because they would help during one of those Halloween heists that they have in the show. Like, I think all of these aspects of Rosa's personality and interests really show that Rosa cares. Rosa cares about the people around her. And that's one of the ways that she shows it on the show. Moving on to Rosa's job. So throughout season 1 to season 7, she is a detective. As a detective, Rosa is sharp, strong, and very determined, and she is not afraid to speak her mind. In season 2, we kind of have her biggest moments so far as a detective when she is given her own task force to try to get this drug Kicklebig out of the streets and try to find out the supplier and how is it coming to the streets of New York. And at first she has difficulties with it and isn't making any big buzz, but later on it ends up being very successful and it makes her happy that it went well.
It means so much and it's been so stressful and it went so well. Seriously, look at me, I cannot stop smiling.
Yes, Rosa continues on her work, working cases with different detectives, but a major plotline relating to work for Rosa is when, at the end of season 4, her and Jake Peralta, another one of the detectives, main character of the show, start working with Lieutenant Hawkins, who is trying to figure out what's happening with these bank robberies. However, Lieutenant Hawkins is dirty and is actually behind the bank robbings, and Rosa and Jake realize this pretty quickly. And when Hawkins realizes this, she frames them and they are falsely imprisoned. Because Jake is the main character of the show, the beginning of season 5, when they are falsely imprisoned, they focus a lot more on Jake Peralta's time in prison, more so than on Rosa's. But we are shown how she's dealing with being in prison. It's really difficult for her and she just wants to be treated like she used to be. She is visited by Sergeant Terry Jeffords and Captain Holt, and when she realizes that she is not being treated like she would like to be, like how she was before, she kind of uses them to teach them a lesson. Like she has these crazy demands and like asks them to do plenty of stuff for her while she's in prison, and they do even the craziest ones. And when she demands them something even that's like not possible to do, they do break, like, hey, this is not okay. And then she was like, okay, thank God, can y'all stop treating me differently? So yeah, she wants to be treated as she was before, but how is that possible when she's in such a difficult situation, being falsely imprisoned? Well, in the beginning of season 5, she is released. She is on desk duty for a while and she's fine with it. She wants to return back to normal life, slowly but surely. And maybe because Rosa is not the main character, but she doesn't seem as visibly impacted by false imprisonments as one would expect. She returns to working cases a few episodes later. She does say that she missed her family while being in prison. It doesn't seem like being falsely imprisoned changed Rosa that much. So she continues on being a cop. In season 5 episode Show Me Go, and she gets involved in a situation of an active shooting in New York, and all of the squad is very, very worried of her. And when she ultimately gets away from it and that situation calms down and everyone is so happy to see her, again she just says that she just wants to relax and not talk about what happened, which kind of shows that even though she must be impacted by the job, she doesn't want to discuss it. She wants to just move on from it. Maybe some kind of avoidance is present in her character, but also maybe just moving on and forgetting about it feels like the best way for her to cope with everything that she has gone through. So she continues on being a cop. There are a few notable cases. She works one with Amy where they catch someone that disappeared a few years ago from their radar. Yeah, she continues on being a cop until season 8. She becomes a private investigator. This was after Black Lives Matter in 2020 gained global momentum, and there were many mainstream discussions about how policing and specifically the NYPD has brutalized Black and brown people. And this is reflected in the show. Rosa doesn't feel comfortable being a cop anymore because she feels like she might hurt people who look like her. This is super interesting because Rosa was full on happy with being a cop throughout the series and was very proud of the work that she did as a cop. So it's a very big change in how she views being a cop. And it did make me think that, is it a genuine development from Rosa Diaz? Understanding that she is part of a deeply flawed system that causes harm to many people? I mean, I hope so. I think it shows that as Rosa has become more open and vulnerable as a person, which I will discuss even more, she maybe has started thinking about her morals and how she views her job. I did also wonder if it was like a personal request from Stephanie Beatrice that she wanted to see Rosa doing something else besides being a cop. In season 8, Rosa gets a police brutality case as a PI, and Jake wants to help her and tries to show her that cops aren't all bad. However, the case ends up being so that the cops end up being really, really bad. This is one of the many ways that the show tries to call out the NYPD and policing overall. And it was especially apparent in season 8. Another day, another sleigh. Let's move on to Rosa's family and friends, and I will start by talking about her family. She has parents and 2 sisters, and the sisters seemingly have children. We don't see much of her sisters, just one flashback in like season 2 or 3. But we do meet her parents during the show. And Rosa, part of her cold and distant demeanor, who doesn't talk about her personal life, really doesn't talk about her family life at all. She does reveal then that after she was falsely imprisoned in season 5, she started missing her family while she was away, and even arranged a Thanksgiving party for her family. The show introduces Rosa's parents in the episode where she comes out to them in season 5. And they had actually been reconnecting since her false imprisonment and her being free from it. They had had family game nights, they had dinner together more frequently. So when Rosa came out to the squad, she felt like she should tell her parents as well. She ropes Jake into this, And they do not take her coming out very well at first. I will talk about this more in the love and sexuality portion. It's a bit overlapped, so bear with me. Her dad eventually does come around, but then suggests that Rosa should give more time to her mother, and subsequently they stop having family game nights together. It takes a long while for Rosa's mom to reappear in the show in season 6, about a year after Rosa came out to her, and Rosa had been quite strongly against contacting her mother because she was the one who wasn't accepting her, so she didn't feel like it was her duty to contact her mother. But then, because of a case, she gets inspired and contacts her mother again.
She just reminds me of my mom.
Still, there are very difficult feelings there, and it's not fixed immediately. And Rosa talks about how strongly and deeply it impacted her when her mother decided to not be in touch with her anymore because of her sexuality. But again, I will talk more about that later. I think one way that could explain Rosa's cold demeanor and being so specific about her private life and being so tough and not being afraid to threaten someone. Well, first off in season 3, but then more in season 7, that her parents and the adults around her raised her on tough love. In season 3, Terry brings her ballet teacher, Miss Miriam, to the precinct. And what Terry doesn't know is that Miss Miriam was very, very tough on Rosa, which made her a good ballet dancer, but she was not a safe adult for her as a teenager. And then in season 7, she speaks more candidly about how her parents raised her on tough love, which kind of made her act out, and she felt awful as a teenager that she would fuck up or make a mistake. And instead of being told that it's okay, we still love you, you did a bad thing, but we still love you, she was raised in a very strict and difficult environment. She even says that she used to rob houses because she was acting out, and she ended up in juvie. And at first she tries to say that tough love made her a good person. She kind of realizes that no, that she should have been treated more with care. And this kind of explains, like, no wonder she's very cold and protective herself, because that's kind of what she was taught to do in order to keep herself safe. Yes, this also sometimes is reflected in the way that she works, in the good and the bad. Moving on to friends. So obviously all of the squad are Rosa's friends, but in the beginning of the show it's very important to Rosa, and throughout the show it is very important to Rosa to keep her work life and personal life separate. So she has friends outside of work, but they are never shown, she never talks about them. There is one friend, Katie, that is shown on the show. When Jake wants to go out with her, he asks Rosa for her number, and initially she says no, but eventually gives it to her. But she's very similar to Rose. She doesn't talk about her personal life. Alright, moving on to the squad. Rosa has different kinds of friendships with each of the members of the squad. For example, with Charles Boyle, he has a big crush on Rosa and is at times very inappropriate, especially after Rosa told him that she is not interested in him. He kept insisting on flirting with her and making her uncomfortable, but they eventually talk it out and become closer friends. Terry and Rosa, Sergeant Terry that I mentioned before, they respect each other, they are friendly with each other. He is a very important authoritative figure in Rosa's life. Hitchcock and Scully, Rosa often attacks them, even physically, for being inappropriate or stepping over her personal boundaries.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
But they still have a couple of very fun plot lines together. Moving on to closer friendships, Jake Peralta, the main character of the show. He and Rosa met at the police academy when they were like 20 and have remained friends since. Their friendship is mostly focused on the work that they do and the cases they solve together, and it has remained that way, very professional for years. It's in season 3 that Jake notes that, they are in their 30s, they're not excited cops anymore, that they should share more about their personal life to each other. At first, Rosa feels like this is an attack on her personal boundaries and says that no, we shouldn't do that because we work so well together, because we focus on work and not some personal stuff. And Jake is a bit insulted by this and then starts sharing personal stuff that he knows about Rosa, and then Rosa eventually says that okay, we can talk more about our personal lives as well. It's difficult for Rosa because she's so used to keeping up this front, but they do grow closer together. Because most of the members of the squad are men, the female friendships form pretty naturally on the show. Amy Santiago, a fellow detective, later on sergeant, becomes a close friend of Rosa's, as well as Gina Linetti, who is Holt's personal assistant, as well as Jake's childhood friend. At first in season 1, Amy feels very competitive over Rosa because she has 7 brothers and she has always felt like she has to prove herself against them and show her worth. But Rosa quickly knows that that's not how it works, that they should have each other's backs because they work with a bunch of men and they need to be there for each other.
We work in a police force full of dudes. We gotta have each other's backs, okay?
Rosa is very supportive of Amy and vice versa. Especially when Amy becomes a sergeant, Rosa very much supports her and empowers her in that position. Amy also shares personal stuff and they grow a really close bond together. For example, Amy told Rosa when Amy and Jake, who end up together and married and so on, when they start having a baby, they didn't tell anyone else except Rosa, which shows that Rosa grows throughout the show and has become more open to having relationships and friendships at work and making them even more personal friends rather than just work friends. And with Gina Linetti, they become this really sweet friend group who sometimes make fun of Amy but also appreciate her for her realness. It's a really sweet friend group that evolves during the show. Gina's actor, Chelsea Peretti, leaves the show but makes occasional appearances later on, so the friendship is more focused on Amy and Rosa than later. As for Captain Holt, Rosa has deep respect for him, but also is not afraid to call him out on his BS. Sometimes these moments create awkwardness and heightened reactions from Holt, if you know what I mean.
The math thing isn't the problem. Night shift's keeping you and Kevin apart. You two just need a bone.
What did you say?
Don't say it again.
I said you two need a bone.
How dare you, Detective Diaz? I am your superior officer! Bone!
But I think because Rosa feels comfortable with Captain Holt and sees him as a very important figure in her life, both personal and professional, that's why she's not afraid to maybe disagree with him sometimes or see things differently from him. And when Rosa came out to her parents and they didn't really accept her right away, Holt is especially there for her since he is gay and he has gone through stuff like that as well. It's actually very sweet. When Rosa's dad says that they shouldn't do family game nights anymore, Jake gets the squad to start a family game night of their own as they appear at Rosa's house very unexpectedly, and it's such a lovely sweet moment of solidarity and kind of showing her chosen family.
Yes, you should be very proud of yourself. I know things aren't exactly where you want to be right now, but I promise you they will improve.
Thank you, Captain.
Every time someone steps up and says who they are, the world becomes a better, more interesting place. So, thank you.
As you can see, Rosa has grown a lot during the show, and whereas she began as someone who is very private, very specific about her boundaries, she still keeps those boundaries and remains professional at work and doesn't tolerate it when her boundaries are overstepped. She has realized that there are people who want good things for her and she should allow them in. So I already mentioned her coming out and her sexuality, so let's move on to talking about her romantic relationships, love and sexuality presented in Rosa Diaz's character. The first relationship that we see is with Holt's nephew, Marcus. This took place in season 2 to season 3. I think they are a really sweet couple because Marcus brings out some of Rosa's sweetness and loveliness, but also respects Rosa as the way she is. I really like them together, but they do end up breaking up because Marcus wanted to get married and she didn't feel like she was ready. And that breakup actually impacted Rosa deeply because she thought that Marcus was such a great person that if she's not ready for someone like him, will she ever be ready? And I think that was such an interesting exploration of Rosa's feelings and how she views human relationships. But yeah, I really like them together. Okay, the next relationship of Rosa's that we see is with Adrian Pimento. Adrian Pimento is a detective of the 99 who had been undercover on a case for 12 years. And he returns to the 99 after being undercover. And when Adrian joins the 99, Rosa is instantly attracted to him and kind of thinks that, well, there must be something weird going on with him since she finds him incredibly attractive. And they get together quite quickly, and together they are very intense, quite unhinged, and they move really quickly. They get engaged really, really fast, and people are kind of stunned by this. And especially as a viewer, it felt weird because Rosa didn't feel ready to get married with Marcus, but now with Pimento, they get engaged really quickly. They want to get married quickly. It was a very much of a 180 of this character. But you know, people move and feel things differently with different people. Eventually, though, as they are preparing to have their wedding, like 2 weeks after their engagement, they realize that they are not ready to get married, that they should probably spend more time getting to know each other and being engaged. Unfortunately, Pimento's life is threatened and he has to go undercover. So Rosa and Pimento have to separate their ways for a little bit. They can't even really keep touch, but they do eventually reunite. But then Rosa is forcefully imprisoned and she's away for like, I think a couple of months actually. After she returns from prison, she's still with Adrian, but she doesn't feel the same about the relationship as before. So at first she thinks that Adrian is cheating on her and is very quick to break up with him, but then he shares that he's learning Spanish so that he can speak in Spanish with her family. She's taken aback and apologizes, but then breaks up with him eventually because it didn't feel right to be in that relationship after everything she went through. Obviously, both of them had difficult things happening to them, and when you add a romantic relationship to that, even though their relationship, it seemed like more of a comedic relief and kind of that type of comedy that it's like watching a train wreck in a way. I do feel like they were genuinely into each other, and while I didn't really care for the coupling, I can see why Rosa was so into him, but then eventually just wanted to break up with him. It is at this point that Rosa comes out on the show. At first she tells Charles because Charles ends up overhearing her talking to her girlfriend, and at first she's like, no, that was my sister, but then she tells him,
What's really going on?
I'm dating a woman. I'm bi.
Oh, that's great.
This meant a lot to me as a bisexual viewer. Like, to hear the words of this confident, badass woman say, I'm bisexual, and Stephanie Beatrice herself is bi, and she was very particular that she wanted those words to be said in the show. It just meant so much to me. Anyways, Charles has a difficult time keeping this secret of Rosa's to himself.
Bye, Rosa. I mean, not bye, but bye. I mean, see ya.
So she ends up telling the squad.
I'm bisexual.
And they all take it pretty well. And yeah, as I mentioned before, she then feels like she should tell her parents. And it does not go well. When she first tells the parents, they are shocked. They don't really say anything. But then they still invite her over family game night. Then at family game night, when they are like, hey, listen about yesterday, Rosa says that, oh, we don't have to talk about that. They say they're okay with her being bi because she still might end up with a man. She then is insulted by that statement and tells them that
I might get married to a man like you so clearly want, and I might not, because this is not a phase, and I need you to understand that. I'm bisexual.
There's no such thing as being bisexual.
Yes, there is. I know there is because that's who I am.
And then she leaves their place. Next day, Rosa's dad does come around and say that he accepts her, that he might not understand everything, but that he loves her and he supports her. But that her dad needs a bit of a longer time to get used to it, that she should give her space. I think the show handled Rosa coming out really well. I think Rosa being bi and Stephanie being by herself too helped a lot. And then this difficult moment and conversations that she has with her parents, they are very unfortunately common when it comes to queer people as well. And I think that, as I mentioned before, Rosa contacts her mother after a year of no contact whatsoever. I think that shows a lot of emotional growth from Rosa and how much she has come to terms with herself and still wanting her mother in her life, even though she didn't provide the acceptance and the support that she needed in that moment. But Rosa was still very visibly hurt by her mother not accepting her and then not talking to her for a year, and I think that's a very valid and very realistic reaction from her. After coming out, Rosa publicly dates multiple women in the show. Some of them are introduced, some of them aren't, but basically she is just meeting people and having fun and getting to know other queer women, and I think that's beautiful. I would say the first serious relationship after Pimento is with Jocelyn Price. But even then, we don't really see much. Rosa starts sharing about her to Jake when they are working, that she's a cosmetology school student and she's working on different hairstyles, especially on Rosa, and she has all these crazy hairstyles. Then we meet her in one episode because all of the squad had met Jocelyn, but Holt hadn't. And Rosa at first was worried because she was afraid that she would scare Jocelyn away because Holt can be a bit judgmental at times. But they talk it out and Holt meets Jocelyn and it goes really well and they seem like a really happy couple. Then during one episode in season 6, there is an emergency at the precinct and Rosa is trying to work on it, but Jocelyn comes to break up with her because she doesn't feel like Rosa prioritizes her enough, because she feels like Rosa is more just focused on her job, that they don't get to spend enough time together. Rosa tries to say that this is not true, and they do end up like talking it out and Jocelyn gives her another chance. And I think that's a valid thing to bring up. If you don't feel valued by your partner, of course you should talk about it. But the context in which this happened, there was a huge emergency at the precinct and Rosa was needed in that. So of course Rosa's not gonna have time for you during her work day. However, she does end up leaving the situation and telling the rest of the squad to take care of it. I understood where Jocelyn was coming from, but I don't think the context of that emergency at the precinct was the best time to bring that up. It is very clear that Jocelyn means a lot to Rosa. She met with her parents, she met her college friends. If we think back to season 1 Rosa, she would have never met with people that she did not know. So that shows that she's stepping outside of her comfort zone and really showing Jocelyn that she cares. And this also shows that Rosa has grown as a romantic partner as well as a person. As Rosa is a side character, we don't see a lot of Rosa and Jocelyn together. Eventually in season 7, Rosa shares that she and Jocelyn broke up. She doesn't share why, but she was very deeply impacted by that relationship ending. Previously, Rosa has talked about how she has always been the person to dump or end the relationship. So to see Rosa so emotionally impacted by the ending of this relationship is very different. But in a way, it shows her personal growth as well, because she was really upset when she broke up with Marcus, and oh my god, that was very pretty, small kiss. But at first she tried to hide her emotions. She tried to hide that the ending of the relationship impacted her. But here she's still hiding the breakup from her friends, not telling her friends right away, so there is still that openness that Rosa doesn't want to introduce her to her life. But she does tell Holt, and as Rosa is very sad about the breakup, Holt provides support to her. So to conclude, Rosa has many meaningful romantic relationships as well as she dates very freely. And I think that's a lovely balance of relationships that can be represented in a show. Coming out as bisexual was such a huge moment for her and the whole TV show. And it just showed how she has grown personally and has become more comfortable with being open to people. I do want to add that Rosa did call someone, a woman, attractive already in season 1, so it wasn't like new information, but that was just a passing moment in season 1. It was much more serious and delicately handled in season 5. Alright, how do I conclude one Rosa Diaz? So in season 8, the last season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, she is a private investigator. She is still very confident in herself. She is still very tough and never loses her edge throughout the show. While talking to Amy during the season finale, she shares that she's very happy in her life situation right now. She doesn't have a long-term romantic partner. She's not intending on to getting married or having children, that she's happy where she is.
I just want you to be happy.
I am happy. Also, I'm moving in with my girlfriend, Deborah. She is amazing. She makes me feel whole.
Really?
Oh my god, this is too easy. No, I don't want to settle down.
Right. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I'm just messing with you.
And I think that was such a beautiful conclusion to her during the show, because so often women are told that they have to be excited about and only focus on getting married and having children, but Rosa is shown as someone who doesn't want that and is still happy and satisfied with her life. As she becomes more open and vulnerable and honest with herself throughout the show, she becomes more surrounded by people she absolutely loves, like her squad. She becomes even more confident in herself. Obviously, her view on being a cop changes a lot between season 7 and 8, which was a very interesting development for her. And it showed that Rosa cares about people a lot and wants to make sure that her role in society is to provide support and help to other people. Maybe as a cop she didn't view herself as that, but I felt like in season 8 she did think of herself that way, and that's really a welcome change in Rosa. And I do have to say, her coming out as bisexual was so very meaningful, and they handled it so well. Yes, Rosa is tough, she's cold at times, but inside she's very, very warm and caring. Alright, so I know I didn't share every single detail about Rosa's character. I did rewatch all of Brooklyn Nine-Nine while I was writing this script, but I thought keeping it at main, most important moments would serve the topic of this video much better than going through every single detail of her life. I know I missed or didn't talk about some plot lines, for example, the fact that Doc Judy Pontiac Bandit has like a crush on her, but I'm not even sure if it's like a real crush. But then again, I'm obsessed with Rosa, so I understand if someone else would be. My main takeaway on this show was to look at Rosa's character and see how she has changed, and I really loved filming this video. I hope you enjoyed this video and see you in the next one. Bye!